You have no right to lock us out of our own neighborhood. My daughter's having a panic attack. I'm calling the police." That's what Karen screamed at me that morning right before her teenage daughter burst into tears, dialed 911, and the entire cul-de-sac came out to watch the show. And all of that chaos happened because I locked the gate on my own property. It still sounds insane to me when I say it out loud, but that's exactly how it went down. And if you've ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA or a self-appointed neighborhood queen, you already know logic means nothing to them once their ego's on the line. When I moved here 2 years ago, I thought I'd finally found peace. I'm a software engineer. I work from home. I like things quiet. My house sits at the very end of a cul-de-sac with a long private driveway that leads to a gate opening onto the main road. The deed, the survey, the whole 9 yards all clearly showed it was part of my land. At first, everything was perfect. The HOA kept things tidy, neighbors waved, lawns looked nice. Then one day I realized cars were cutting through my driveway like it was some shortcut to save a few minutes getting out of the neighborhood. At first I thought, okay, probably a misunderstanding. I mentioned it politely to a few people, they apologized, stopped using it. No big deal. But then came Karen. Karen lived 3 houses down. The kind of woman who acted like she owned the HOA even though she was just the secretary. Mid-50s, perfect blonde curls, crisp white blouse, always holding a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. She marched up to my house one Tuesday morning, parked her spotless white BMW right in front of my garage, and said, "Andrew, we need to talk about your gate." She didn't ask, she announced. Apparently her daughter Ashley had been late to school twice that week because your gate slows us down, she said, dead serious. That driveway's been a community shortcut for years. The previous owner never had a problem. I told her as politely as I could that the gate and the driveway were part of my property. I'd even checked the county survey myself. She frowned, folded her arms, and said, "Just because you're new doesn't mean you get to change the way this neighborhood works." And then with that smug smile that only an HOA Karen can master, she added, "I'll be bringing this up at the next board meeting." That's when I realized this wasn't just a disagreement, it was the start of a war. A few days later, I saw her outside talking to people, pointing at my house, shaking her head dramatically. I could tell she was turning the neighborhood against me. Then I got an official-looking letter from the HOA signed by her, asking me to attend a meeting to discuss community access concerns. So I showed up, and sure enough, the room was packed, twice as many people as usual. Karen stood up like some kind of politician and gave this whole speech about how closing the gate would disrupt the harmony of the neighborhood, increase traffic, ruin property values. When it was my turn, I showed my survey, the legal documents, everything. Calm, factual, respectful. But people weren't listening to facts, they were listening to Karen. She ended the meeting by saying, "We'll research the property deed. I'm confident there's an easement that requires open access." Spoiler, there wasn't. But that didn't stop her. Over the next few weeks, Karen went from annoying to obsessive. She'd park her car in front of my gate during busy hours, sigh loudly, pretend to check her watch, and drive off like she was starring in her own little protest film. Then I caught her taking pictures every day. Angles, close-ups, videos. She even made a spreadsheet tracking how long the detour route took her. She called it community inconvenience data. I called it what it was: harassment. I tried to ignore her. I focused on my work, stayed calm, but it kept getting worse. So I finally called a lawyer. He looked at my documents and said, "You're completely in the right. Just start documenting everything." So I did. I installed security cameras, added signs. Private property, video surveillance. That night, Karen showed up on my porch holding a clipboard and a petition. Several residents, she said proudly, have signed a request for you to remove the cameras. They invade our privacy. I told her calmly, "They're pointed at my gate. If you don't trespass, they won't see you." Her smile disappeared. "You're isolating yourself, Andrew. This community doesn't take kindly to that." I just closed the door. After that, she went full propaganda mode. She started a private Facebook group for the neighborhood, posting pictures of my gate and my cameras. She called me paranoid, antisocial, a troublemaker, and people started showing up, groups of neighbors standing at the end of my driveway, talking, pointing, taking photos. It felt like I was living under surveillance, not them. I remember one night watching them from my window thinking, what did I even do wrong? All I wanted was privacy, peace, security. Was I really being unreasonable? That was the lowest point for me. I considered moving, selling the house, leaving it all behind. But then one morning, Karen crossed another line. She showed up with Ashley and 2 other neighbors, waving a folder around like she'd just solved a crime. "I've consulted attorneys," she announced. "There's a thing called prescriptive easement. You can't block access that's been used for years," I told her calmly. "No easement exists. I have the documents to prove it. You can read them yourself," she snapped back. "You're lying." And that's when Ashley, her daughter, finally spoke up. "Mom, please, can we just go home? This is embarrassing." The poor girl looked pale, exhausted. You could see the cracks forming in her voice. But Karen turned on her and said, "Ashley, this is about community values. You'll understand when you're older." That was the moment I stopped feeling angry and started feeling sorry for Ashley. Karen didn't want fairness. She wanted control. And I decided right then I wasn't going to back down. I'd fought bullies before, and this one wasn't getting my driveway. A few weeks later, things hit a new level. I woke up one morning to find a massive banner hanging on my gate. "Community access is a right, not a privilege." She even formed a group, the Neighborhood Access Coalition. I took the banner down, documented it, and ignored her. Then a TV reporter called. Apparently Karen had gone to the media. She painted herself as a community advocate fighting an antisocial newcomer. That night she was on the local news pointing at my gate like it was the Berlin Wall. The story was all one-sided. I didn't say a word publicly, but I could feel the pressure building. Cars started slowing down near my house. Strangers took photos. And I'll be honest, I was done being quiet. Then came that Saturday morning, the day everything exploded. It was early December, cold gray, too early for drama. I was getting ready to go Christmas shopping when I saw Karen's BMW blocking my gate again. I walked out and said, "Karen, I need to leave. Please move your car." She rolled down the window 2 inches and said, "I'm exercising my right to peaceful protest." I said, "You're trespassing. You're blocking my property." She smirked. "This driveway has been public access for years. You can't claim it now." I told her I was calling the police. She said, "Go ahead. They'll side with me. I'm live streaming this right now." That's when I knew she wanted a scene. Within 15 minutes, 2 police cars arrived along with half the neighborhood. I handed the officer my paperwork, the property survey, even video footage from my cameras. Karen stood there explaining her community cause while Ashley sat in the passenger seat, face buried in her hands. The officer listened, nodded, then said, "Ma'am, this is private property. You need to move your vehicle." Karen's voice shot up an octave. "No, you don't understand. This is our neighborhood. He's locking us out." The officer stayed calm. "If you don't move your car, you'll be charged with trespassing." And that's when Karen snapped. She jumped out of the BMW screaming, "You can't lock us out of our own homes. This man's a psychopath. He's harassing us." Ashley got out too, trembling, and finally shouted, "Mom, stop it. You're embarrassing me." Karen turned on her, screaming about loyalty, about family, about principles. The crowd went silent. The officer gave her one last warning. "Ma'am, move the vehicle or I'll arrest you for harassment and disturbing the peace." Karen froze, then slowly got back in the car, muttering to herself as she reversed out of the driveway. The whole thing was on camera, and that's how the neighborhood finally saw the truth. Within a few days, people started apologizing. Even the HOA president sent me a letter confirming that I had every right to keep the gate locked and that the board would not pursue any further action. Karen's name wasn't on it. I never saw her at another meeting again. The Facebook group vanished, and Ashley, sweet quiet. Ashley started waving at me whenever she passed by. I think she was just relieved it was over. The gate stays closed now. Most neighbors respect it. Some probably still don't like me, but at least they keep it to themselves. And me, I learned that when you stand up to a bully, especially one hiding behind community rules, you have to do it calmly, legally, and without stooping to their level. Because in the end, it wasn't anger that won. It was patience and proof. Moral: sometimes the best way to fight madness is to stay sane.